I'm Austin Wolmberg, and today I'm going to go through the setup of a Gen 4 monitor for harvest. First, similar to a Greenstar display, we have to do a complete setup before we start combining. Start by clicking the setup tile on the bottom left-hand corner of your quick key bar. This page is where we set up our client farm and field equipment and implements, and the documentation information such as crop type and variety. The first spot you'll want to click on is the location or the G tab that's previously known as on the Greenstar display. After clicking that tab, it'll bring up this page. Before starting in the fall, it's a good idea to set up a create file through your My John Deere Operations Center account. This will allow you to send over your client farm field names that you used in the spring and the varieties that you used when you were planting, also known as the variety locator. If for some reason the field isn't located in your display, click on the client, new farm, and then new field to add a new one. Next, similar to Greenstar display, is the equipment also known as the H tab. Before you start harvest, we want to measure and check all of our equipment offsets. So once you click on the combine, it'll bring up this page. This is where the offsets can be edited. There's factory settings on this page, but it's a good idea to take a tape measure and measure yourself. The one is the GPS lateral offset. That's normally 0 because the receiver is in the middle of the machine. Number 2 is the GPS inline offset, and that's the distance from the center of the front axle to the receiver. And number 3 is the GPS height. That's the height of the receiver is off the ground to where the yellow meets the green on the receiver. The third tab on the left side is your header offsets. Again, it's a good idea to take a tape measure and check all these as well from year to year. The C is the lateral offset, and that is where the center of the head is compared to the receiver. Number 1 is the distance from the connection point to where the crop is cut. And the letter A is the distance from the center of the axle to the connection point. Once you save your offsets on the previous slide, click on the header settings. This page, you are able to adjust your header settings. One thing to verify is the header rows and row width are set correctly. This is important to ensure yield and mapping in documentation correctly. Similar to our Greenstar display, the work summary page, or the I tab, since we have the equipment set to combine, the display knows that our task is harvesting. We will want to click on the white box to indicate which crop type we will be harvesting. Once you click on the white box, it'll bring you to a list of crop types. If the crop types you are looking for isn't in the list, click on all crop types to add the correct one in. After choosing your crop type, you'll need to add a variety and make sure the harvest units are in bushels if you're harvesting corn or soybeans. If you have created a setup file through Operations Center and included variety locator maps where you planted in the spring, you can click on the second white box on this page to select the variety map of the client farm field that you had selected from before. If you don't have a setup file with your variety maps, you can manually select a variety by selecting the first white box indicated on this slide. When manually adding varieties, click Add Variety and it will bring up a screen to type in whatever you want, or there will be a list of varieties that you brought in with the setup file. The last step in the harvest setup on your Gen 4 4600 or Gen 4 4640 display is the Harvest Setup button within the Work Summary page. This page is where we can set your cob and threshing conditions as well as set your auto header settings. Integrated Combine Adjustments 2 is also located on this page. By clicking on the ICA2 page, it will take you to the location to adjust Harvest Smart, Auto Terrain Adjust, and Auto Maintain. This is what the page looks like after you click on the ICA2 and where you can turn on your Harvest Smart, Active Train, and Auto Maintain on and off. Finally, I'll touch a little bit on the Active Yield feature, which can be found by going to the menu page and clicking on Calibrations and Procedures, and then clicking Active Yield. This is where you can turn the active yield on or off and see how many samples have been collected, as well as when the last one was accepted. Active yield, while it is turned on, is always working in the background while harvesting, collecting data, and adjusting the yield without manual calibrations. For any further questions, call the Integrated Solutions Specialist hotline number, and that is at 712-248-4920.